Welcome to the Coach Pony Podcast. We are here to help you get paid to coach. And no matter what your niche, if you want to get paid to coach, you need to understand the business side of coaching. Hi, I'm Christie Mims, the founder of Coach Pony, and I'm joined by Bobbi Palmer, the founder of Date Like a Grownup. And together, we've made millions of dollars as life coaches. So we've learned a few things. Join us as we dig into everything coaching and answer your biggest business questions. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Coach Pony Get Paid to Coach podcast. And we are so glad to be back after a little bit of a break. And so, hi, I'm Christie Mims, and I'm the founder of Coach Pony. And I'm here with the lovely, the amazing, and the spectacular Bobbi Palmer from Date Like a Grownup. So say hello, Bobbi.
Hello, Bobbi. Oh, hi. I'm so glad. I'm really glad to be back. And you said I'm spectacular because you love my hair.
I do. You can't see Bobbi right now, but her hair does look spectacular. And we are back for a special episode of this podcast. And it's all about the future of life coaching, what's going to happen in 2026, and how healthy is the coaching industry right now. So if you have been worried about coaching, or you've just been wondering about coaching, is there room for you? Is it a growing industry? Is it a dying industry? Is there a future in this industry? We are here to tackle all of those questions and then some. And to help give structure to today's conversation and to frame this conversation, we thought we'd use the recent ICF report as our jumping off point, the International Coaching Federation report, because we love to sort of ground things in data and not just use wild opinions. So we're going to frame the conversation around the ICF report. So I have purchased it so that you don't have to, everyone. You're welcome. And I wanted to just give you some information so we're all on the same page before Bobbi and I start unpacking it. So there's a couple of interesting things about this report. So first off, I should say everything's in US dollars, so apologies for that. But the coaching profession contributed an estimated $5.34 billion dollars in total annual revenue to the global economy over the past year, which, by the way, if you're wondering, is an increase of 17% over the 2023 study. And globally, all across the world, so coaches across the world are charging different rates. Individual active coach practitioners earned an average annual revenue of close to $50,000 US dollars from their coaching activities, which is interesting. Coaches have increased 13%. So the number of coaches has increased, and the coaching profession maintains high participation levels. So we have more coaches, but they're reporting 90%. 90% are reporting having active clients. So the vast majority of coaches have active clients. Yes. Coaches are charging on average $234 US dollars for a 1-hour coaching session. And they spend an average of almost 12 hours per week working as a coach. And again, on average, they're working with over 12 clients at any given time. Coaches are feeling very optimistic about the coaching industry, with close to 60% of us expecting an increase in our annual revenue for 2026. And a lot of that's going to come from getting even more clients and potentially raising our rates. And finally, tech is starting to make its way into the coaching world. While most coaches are still coaching privately and using things like Zoom or the phone, tech is really being used to schedule calls, to manage your business. But coaches are starting to adapt technology into the business. And there is some worry about how AI is going to impact us as coaches. So those are the key findings from the ICF report. If you haven't seen them, there you go. That's what they sort of put at the highest level. And then they spent the rest of the report unpacking that. So I wanted us to unpack it ourselves because Bobbi and I have a very different perspective from the ICF. I am a certified professional coach. I was an ICF accredited coach for a long time, but I no longer maintain my accreditation. And Bobbi is not an ICF accredited coach. And so we have I have a community of tens of thousands of coaches. Bobbi has been working as a coach for 15 or 16 years. I've been working as a coach for 13 years. So we have a different perspective. And so I wanted to get into a discussion because there's a difference between studies in real life and data. Data can be manipulated is the wrong word, but data can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. But data can be also be very specific, and you can draw conclusions based on a very specific or narrow interpretation. So I wanted us to provide our insight on top of this particular report. So, Bobbi, I wanted to kick it off and ask you this question. What surprised you about this particular report? What surprised you?
Gosh, kind of a lot. I do want to say, by the way, that I agree with you. I think having the two of us with our different perspectives is really, really important because we came at coaching like completely different, right? With your ICF background and my background's in adult education, but I did make up being a coach. so, so I think based on what the listener, where you are in your life, listener, you'll get kind of two perspectives maybe, or we might agree. I love when we agree. Okay. So what surprised me most was, I think the increase, right? Like 17% increase, and 90% have active clients. So that means, so the way I'm looking at this data is it's really positive. It's really positive. The world seems to be sort of caving in around me. There's so much going on, but I look at these numbers and I say, you know what? Coaching is a really important, valuable profession, and people need us, right? That's how I see it. That 90% active clients working 12 hours a week, 12, a dozen clients, especially if you're just starting out, it's really good news. I think it's all really good news. And in this day and age, looking at good news is really, really needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm a super online newsy person. And so sometimes the vibes of the news and the economic climate
Yeah.
can infiltrate how you feel about everything. And so I was also pleasantly surprised by the growth in the industry. I knew it was growing. If you're wondering, everyone, I don't just look at the ICF. I'll also look at other data scientist reports like IBIS. There's also Coach Ranks and some other things. Everyone shows the coaching growing, and it's been growing for years. So the coaching
Mhm.
industry, there's plenty of space for you. But I was actually pleasantly surprised by the 90% number as well, that so many active practitioners have clients. That's wonderful news. And it shows that people want coaching. So if you're looking at this data saying, oh my gosh, there's so many more coaches, true, but there's also more people wanting coaching if 90% of
Mhm.
coaches are having
Mhm.
clients.
I want to give this a little perspective too, because like you said, I started 10 years ago, right? When I started as a dating coach, there were like literally a handful of us that had online presence, and we were kind of writing blogs. And now there's thousands and thousands and thousands of us. So some people could look at that as, oh my gosh, there's so much competition. But what's happened is it's kind of like the old days of therapy, right? In the old days, when I was younger, and I'm old, of course, we all know.
Tell us
Um,
about the days of yore. Were there horses and buggies? Tell me
yeah,
more.
when we were when we had to call the operator to have her connect us to our neighbor. But in the old days, people with therapists, right, with psychologists, nobody talked about it. It was kind of embarrassing. I remember there was like this great in Sex Lies and Videotape when she talked about being she talked about going to a therapist, and James Spader looked at her and said, you go to a therapist? And she looked and said, don't you? Like, doesn't everyone? Remember? And that's how but now everybody does, right? Everybody. The idea that there's so many more coaches, along with it, in parallel with that, is the acceptance of getting coaching. Just
Mm,
like in parallel with the growth of the window opened and more people are open to it. And a lot of people, most people, I think, do coaching rather than therapy anymore.
mm.
Am I like making my point? In other
Yes.
words, don't look
It's
at
big.
it as there's so much competition. Look at it as so many people need us and are accepting that they need us, and they're hiring us.
Yeah, it's definitely become much more mainstream. I remember that
Mhm.
point was made came home to me years ago, and a friend of mine who's always been in therapy was saying, I mean, she's still in therapy, but she was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to start working with a life coach soon on X, Y,
Mhm.
Z." And it was just in casual conversation, just very normal. And so I
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, this is something. This is something. The other thing that I was pleasantly surprised by was the hourly rate of coaches being $234 an hour for 1 hour of coaching. And guys, please don't charge by the hour. There's just search Coach Pony on this topic. You'll find out why you should not do this. But it is good to know what your internal hourly rate is. And so this was a little bit higher than what I was expecting because coaches tend to dramatically undercharge, I think, more so than overcharge. But that's a very sustainable rate to support yourself as a coach. So Bobbi, were you also pleasantly surprised by that or?
Yes, absolutely. And I agree that, and when you look at the actual delivery of coaching, it's not just an hour, right? We're not like a therapist where somebody walks into our office for 50 minutes, then walks out. So I know for me, my coaching I don't just offer that hour, I offer um, online uh, online support. I offer email. I offer other, like, I have admin hour time that I need to do. So yeah, I was really pleasantly pleased because it sounds like a lot, but when you talk about everything that it takes to really truly support a client, um, that's a good rate. That's a good rate.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I charged like $50. I think when I started, I can't remember what my rate was. Do you remember your first rate?
Yeah, my very first client I think was $2,000 for a 10 session package. So I was always
Mm.
charging a lot. And that was the only client I took at that price. I immediately raised my price after that.
Good for you. Always were so good at that. And I was the one you were saying, Bobbi, you have to raise your rates. You have to raise your rates. I'm like, oh, but they won't hire me. And they did. They did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm over that. Like right now, I'm over that rate.
Yeah. I mean, Bobbi's actually, she's not an inexpensive coach anymore. So if you want to work with her, you will be paying more than $234 an hour, but it is well worth it.
Yeah. And it's not an hour. That's, again, I mean, for me, that's my point is, uh, we're working with, I won't go off on a tangent and we'll do this on another session, but we're not just hourly with our clients necessarily,
No, we are not.
which I'm really proud of. I'm very proud of that we provide a really, uh, that's what makes our service meaningful to people.
Yeah. There's in coaching, there's a skill of coaching detachment. And that's one I think Bobbi and I are epically terrible at. And
Yes.
I used to say to my career coaching clients, I was not the most expensive career coach at all, but I was definitely on the higher end. And I would say part of it is because I don't take that many clients so that I can like literally get into bed with you in your career so that you are not alone, so that I can be as available to you as I can possibly be and support you on this very hard life transition.
Mhm.
And so, we both prided ourselves on being available to our clients and just trying to over deliver as much as possible. Now, the skill of coaching detachment is an important one. This is not a podcast about
With
that.
boundaries.
Yeah, you do need to have
With
boundaries.
boundaries.
So I'm not suggesting that you ignore that skill, but it is just food for thought. So back to this report, Bobbi. There's some things that concerned me, including the $234 an hour that I want to get into. What concerned you about this report? Was there anything where you were like, as you took a closer look at it based on your tremendous experience?
Well, we talked about this. One thing that concerns me is who are these coaches? So they said that they did a survey with 10,000 plus internationally, like coaches, right? Their numbers are international. So there is some value if you're look at the details and see geographically where your audience uh, may be. But, but who were they? Were they all just ICF coaches, or were they in general like a different mix of coaches like me, right? Did they interview people like me? Did they interview just people who've been through ICF? I think that's good information. And we couldn't find it, right?
No, we both looked at the report closely. As Bobbi said, the ICF report was based on information from 10,000 different coaches from all over the globe, which is great. I assume they are ICF members. But the report was never fully clear on the percentage across the globe and exactly where they got these members and how they convinced them to take the survey. It looked to me like it was generationally a bit older.
Yes.
I would expect they were ICF members. And the problem with that is it leads to a certain kind of answer and result, right? If you're talking to coaches who are a little bit more in the baby boomer space and who are ICF members, it's going to be a specific type of person for the most part. And I think you're excluding a lot of other information. A lot of incredibly successful coaches I know are not at all involved in the ICF in a variety of niches. And so that was concerning to me that we didn't get a little bit more clarity on the data set in particular. Now, if we've missed this, you're more than welcome to comment, let us know. But we did look for it. And I felt like the report could have told us a little bit more about how they got these coaches to participate in particular. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. This is still super helpful information, but I feel like we're not getting the whole story. And that worries me.
And what also, and you just kind of mentioned this, they said 88% of coaches are Gen X and boomers. And that millennials are on the rise, it said, which is good. But it also concerned me that I hope it didn't give any stats on millennials or on the rise kind of thing. But I do have concern that that younger people are moving more and more into coaching. So you, as a coach for coaches, you as somebody that helps so many new coaches start their business, what are you seeing personally in terms of kind of age ranges of new coaches coming in?
Yeah, and I was surprised by that too, because in all honesty, I am seeing a fair amount of millennials for sure. I'm not seeing a lot of Gen Z in our program in particular, but definitely a fair amount of millennials. I mean, elder millennials are, 45, 46, right? Like, so they're not young. And I
Yes,
can
they
see
are.
you're right.
I'm
I'm saying
66.
that
They're
as a
young.
very young Gen Xer. But yeah, I feel like the people who maintain their ICF accreditation and who put a lot of emphasis on this are going to be trend a little bit older. So I'm not sure this is 100% reflective. Would I say that, people, more successful coaches might be a little bit older? Yeah, probably to some degree. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that this is fully capturing everything correctly here. And I definitely see in my programs a lot of millennials. So,
Good.
that concerned me about this report a little bit too. Another thing that concerned me that they did not qualify very clearly to me is they said hours per week working as a coach was listed at 11.6 hours per week. But what they didn't clarify was, is that 11.6 hours of actually coaching, like you're physically coaching every week, or is that the time you're spending in your business at all, in any capacity at all? They did not clarify that. And that's actually a big clarification, because coaching for like close to 12 hours a week is actually a lot of coaching every week. That's not a small amount.
Actually delivering it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
let's assume you're private coaching, you're probably meeting with 10 or 12 clients in that case a week, right? And that's a lot of clients per week. So I wish they had clarified if that was about working in the business or working just specifically as a coach and delivering coaching. And it concerned me that they did not make that clarification, because those are two, like the numbers look very different depending on what you're talking about.
I think, though, when you look at the average income is 50,000 plus, and that's globally, right?
Yeah.
So, we're in California. So, I worked in California, so 50,000, is not probably realistic for California. But if
No.
you look at the 50,000 income and you look at 12 hours, that's got to be delivery time. And then, just like I was talking about, you're not just doing that delivery, you're doing so much more. So I think that
Yeah.
was a little deceiving.
Yeah. And the 234, I think, is a little bit deceiving too, in that I think there are some very successful business and career coaches that might be pulling that number up.
Oh, yeah.
especially in the United States. So if you're listening, this will not surprise you, but coaches are paid the most in the US, and in the least in the emerging world. Of course,
Yeah.
that's no surprise. Coaches make a little bit less in Europe than in the United States, et cetera, et cetera. But that 234, I was like pleasantly surprised, but also I was like, this is an average, which means that if there are a handful of coaches making a lot more than that, there can also be a ton of coaches making making somewhat less than that
Mhm.
to get to
Mhm.
this average. So I wanted to be a little bit mindful of that as well. And it really greatly depends on where you are in the world too. Now, if you're somewhere else in the world, you're not in the United States like I am right now, you can also coach Americans. The cool thing about the world today is how connected we are. So you don't have to limit yourself to your small piece of the world depending on your skill set and your focus. So I just want to say that. But that did concern me a little bit because I'm not sure we're getting a fully accurate portrayal of how much coaches are making.
And hey, Americans need a lot of coaching these days.
We do. Beating back fascism is,
Just
is hard work. It's hard work.
yeah. Need
um,
a lot of support.
So I want to ask you, Bobbi, what is your hot take on the health of coaching now based on your own observations, your coaching network, and this report? What's your hot take? Shoot from the gut.
My hot take is I believe um, I'm looking at the report that says there's been a 13% increase in coaches. My hot take is I do believe that coaching is still a really solid profession and industry. However, it's changing dramatically because of technology, because the world is changing. Um, and I think, and one has to, how do I say this? When I started, it was these gurus telling me how to do everything, you know, and I think what may be coming down the pike is we're going to have to be a lot more creative. And we're going to
Mm,
have to speak more directly to our niche and maybe even narrow our niche more because that's what people need right now. We talked about this earlier, right? People need high touch. People need to feel like they're seen and understood. And I think it's going to be really valuable to be a coach. I think we can make huge changes for people's lives that are really important. And I'm hopeful, but I don't. But we can't just do the old stuff.
yeah. So I want to pause right there. So basically, to sum up, your hot take is that coaching is healthy in the moment based on what you're seeing.
Yeah, I could have said that in 10 words, huh?
No, you jumped ahead to where I want to go, which is what we think is changing.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. But I agree with you. My hot take too, based on everything I've seen looking at the data and what I know from my own community. And I feel like I have a pretty unique, but also pretty unique seat, but also I
Hmm.
have a very large data set of my own, is that coaching is healthy
Hmm.
and it is continuing to grow and it will continue to grow. We can't look out 5 or 10 years, I think, with the changes that AI is bringing and make really solid predictions. But in the short term, I feel very confident in coaching for sure. And some form of coaching is going to stick around. And so I
Hmm.
want to make some predictions based on what we've seen and in this report and what we know to be true in our own businesses. And so if I can start, I just want to say that a lot of what I think has changed this year, separate from technology, is based on is coming from economic uncertainty and sort of this feeling that things aren't that great that we've been having really since COVID to some degree, but it's gotten significantly worse, of course, this year with the current administration. I think that the predictions I'm about to make are going to hold true as long as we continue with this economic uncertainty. So my first prediction is that trust is down, right? Consumer trust is down. We know this, and it's going to remain down. And so therefore, the sales cycle will be longer. And it's really going to be important for you to show up as much as possible and in a very real and authentic way as possible, which I think speaks to the point you're trying to make, Bobbi, which is AI is impacting all of us, but a lot of it is slop. And so our clients need to see us. They need to see us and feel connected to us, especially in this cycle where they're a little bit less willing to just take a runner on a coach, right? Like, we're all counting our pennies a little bit more. Economic uncertainty makes people slow down and makes people really think about their spending. And so if they invest in a coach, it's going to take a little bit longer sometimes before they say yes. And they're going to need to feel that trust in the coach before they say yes. And so if those things may hold true, which I think they will, we need to be more open and more authentic, more real, and make sure that people are really seeing us so that they build that connection. Does that make sense to you, Bobbi?
Of course. Yeah, it's that's why I like talking about the idea of not just listening to gurus and doing it the way, even though they should listen to us, of course. Like, what am I saying? But yeah, I mean, creating, that's why one thing I would say, can I give my little quick AI tip? I know we're going to dig deeper in January on this.
Yeah, well, we're not ready for tips yet, Bobbi. We're not ready for tips. We're still in predictions.
Oh,
So
God,
hit
I'm
me with
just
your
so
predictions.
excited. I'm so excited. I agree with what you're saying. I do agree with what you're saying. But the prediction, the thing that I think really needs to be understood is, again, um, because of economic uncertainty, and it's not just in the US, it's all over the world.
Mhm.
You know, when you look at the ICF report and you look at the continents and the countries that they talked about, there's all kinds of uncertainty all over the world. So I do think that making a more personal connection, just to reiterate what you're saying, is going to be the way that you're going to stand out, and the way that you're going to you have to make somebody say, I want that person to be in my life. I want that person. That's the person that's going to help me. And when you do that, you're going to do really well as a coach, because again, there's so many people that need us.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, absolutely. So my predictions are that private coaching and anything that's high touch, whether that's a lunch or a high touch group program or private coaching, is still going to be really powerful. And people are going to be looking for that and that sense of connection in the next couple of years for sure. And private coaching itself might even become more valuable. As people, as we get tired of talking to bots, we want to make sure we're talking to someone real.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these things are going to continue to perform well into the future, as far as we can see, which isn't necessarily years. It might be a year or two. We'll have to continue to reassess. But like that's where I think I am with the predictions. Trust is down. We have to show it more. Sales are going to take longer because trust is down. But these modalities that have a huge amount of connection, like private coaching, are still incredibly powerful. And I don't think AI is going to come for that quite yet. So to recap, we think life coaching is healthy. Even if it doesn't quite feel that way, the data and everything that we're seeing anecdotally says not only is it healthy, it's growing. So if you are interested in this as your career field, amazing. And if you are in it, and you're struggling, you might want to think about some of the stuff we're talking about in terms of predictions. How are you showing up in a way that's really showing yourself? So you're building trust. Are you allowing for a slower sales cycle? And are you delivering what people want, which is higher touch types of deliveries like private coaching? I think these things are where life coaching is moving into the future, and stuff we as coaches need to be aware of. And now let's do some business and life tips. I want to get to a tip that Bobbi has for us. We like to close out with like a business tip and a life tip. So, Bobbi, what is your business tip? Tell us.
Finally, thank you. My business tip is, do not use AI. Everything that we're saying is about showing up and being authentic. And it's so tempting to use AI. And again, in January, we'll dig deeper. But for now, I want to say, if you're a new coach, you're just starting out, the skill of being to express yourself and the skill of developing your voice so that you attract your people, right? You attract you. When I get on the phone with somebody who wants to talk to me, like in a discovery call, who wants to talk to me about potentially having me be their coach, almost every single person says, oh my gosh, you're just like you are on your webinars. Oh my gosh, you're just like you are when I read your blogs. Yeah, because that's me. I'm always me. And AI will ruin that for you. AI won't do that for you. So that's my tip, is don't use that yet. Develop that skill of really being out there in the world in a really, in an authentic way and in a human way. Do you know, right?
Yeah.
Talking to people on a level like you're sitting across having a cup of coffee with them. That's how I
Yeah.
do it.
I think the thing I always like to hold on to is AI is not going to buy your coaching. Humans are. So
Oh, yeah.
while it's a great tool for productivity, don't use it for everything, especially if you haven't developed your voice yet.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for disaster. So awesome. So that's one coaching tip. So if you're feeling a lot of pressure as a new coach to embrace AI, we're telling you you can relax on that for a second and really just focus on getting to know your niche. So I have two. My biggest life tip is read more. I think in today's online world, it's really nice to get into just reading more fiction. People always ask me what business books am I reading. So I'll just say I'm about to start reading 10x is Easier Than 2x by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. I haven't read it yet. I've heard it's great. That's the business book I'm about to read. But I've been trying to focus on making sure I'm just reading for pure pleasure. It's such a great calm way to calm your mind before bed. It's such just a way to relax and get off the phone, get off the screens. So I just finished for the 50th time Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. So if you need some cozy comfort reading this time of year, Agatha Christie, I just love her. She's my favorite author. Death on the Nile, always good, always good. And so it just that's my recommendation for some fiction if you need it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said fiction. That's a really good life tip. Really, it's a good life tip.
Yeah. So I want to have a big announcement, which is obviously we haven't dropped a podcast in a really long time, in about a year. And so here we are, we're back, but we are actually officially back in January when the podcast is going to be moving to YouTube Live. So you'll be able to join us live in January when we record the podcast and ask us questions. And we're going to be tackling some of your biggest coaching questions. We've built 6 and 7 figure programs. We've both made millions in our businesses, and we come at it from a variety of niches. So we have a lot to say. So you can ask us questions or just hang out with us and be with fellow coaches, which is always a huge mental boost. So if you want to know more about this, get on the Coach Pony email list. So you can get on that by going to coachpony.com and just signing up for our guide and for our email list, and you'll hear about this. And follow us on YouTube and subscribe to the Coach Pony YouTube channel. So search for Coach Pony on YouTube to find us that way. And you'll be getting a lot more of me and Bobbi in your life in 2026. And we'll put all of this information, by the way, in the show notes. So if you are like, where do I go again? CoachPony.com. It'll be in the show notes. And Bobbi, how can people find you in the interim? Where can they find you while they're waiting?
The best place to go for me is datelikeagrownup.com/blog. I've got over 125 really useful articles, and come visit me. I'd love it.
Yeah, you guys. And if you need a date coach in this time, because it's so wonderful to have a partner in life, if you need that, please go look at Bobbi's stuff on datelikeagrownup.com. She has so many free resources, but she's also an amazing coach if you want to work with her one-on-one. I'm just gonna say that. So datelikeagrownup.com, we'll put that in the show notes as well. And with that, everyone, thanks for being with us, and we will see you in January.
Adios.